Hello everyone, Sean Finnegan here. I'm joined by Vince Enginito.
Hey man.
We had a really awesome opportunity to go out to Champaign, Illinois and visit Volition Studios. They have this brand new IP, which we're revealing as part of IGN first. It's called Agents of Mayhem. Vince, we got to go hands-on with it.
We did.
What did you like about it? What is it first?
So yeah, first of all, what is Agents of Mayhem? So it fits in line with what Volition's been doing for the last few years, similar to Saints Row in that sense. It's a urban-based, open-world action game with a little touch of over-the-top craziness, and that's kind of like their signature, right? That's kind of what they do. Now, it's not a Saints Row game, although it takes place in the same universe. Different IP, but you will see different kind of visual callbacks and references that kind of let you know that like this is in a similar place, although this is in a place where the Saints never existed, though. They did say that.
Interesting. So it is based off one of the canon endings for Saints Row 4.
Yes, it is, right. Or the canon endings of Gat Out of Hell, which was the last expansion for Saints Row 4.
Awesome. So in addition to being this open world kind of action game, we do know that it's squad based, it's third person. Tell me a little bit about how those mechanics work.
Sure. So you're right to say squad based in the sense that you pick 3 characters from a pool, a larger pool than that. We don't know exactly how many it's going to be. There were 4 characters that were playable and selectable in the build that we play, and you have to pick 3 out of those to make your squad. But squad based also makes it sound like it's a multiplayer game, but actually it's a single player one. So there's no multiplayer of any kind. It's one person hot swapping between 3 characters on the fly. So everyone's got kind of their own abilities that make them kind of uniquely suited to handling different situations. And then the idea is when you find yourself in a bad situation, it's not, oh God, I've got to get myself out of the situation. It's I've got to switch to a different character that handles this situation.
So it's kind of like the action style, the action version of like a Marvel versus Capcom, right? You're switching characters on the fly, kind of trying to distribute damage across these characters so that you're all in a pretty good place.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is that as one character gets damaged, you can swap them out and they'll regenerate their health while they're out. Yeah, very similar to Marvel vs. Capcom in that regard. And while you can't think of it, again, there's nothing about this game that's anything like a fighting game per se, but philosophically speaking, you do have to think about how one person's tools cover off on another person's weaknesses. So like for instance, you have Hardtack, who's got this like great shotgun, up close, bruiser, tons and tons of health he gets in there. But yeah, if he's dealing with a sniper, really far away, that can be problematic for him if his harpoon isn't off cooldown. Instead of just being like, oh well, I just have to hide from this sniper for a while, you say no, I'm just gonna switch over to my bow wielding character and I'm just gonna line up a nice long shot and bam, take it out. And then if that bow wielding character gets swarmed, again, you don't go, oh no, gotta run out of here. You just switch right back to Hardtack and let him take care of it. So you gotta think about each of them. It's almost like a character, like the characters switching between them is almost like a weapon wheel. It's almost like thinking about which weapon you need right now for the situation and just switching to it on the fly.
And these characters are pretty complex, right? You mentioned Hardtack, who has this harpoon that when you hit an enemy with it, it teleports that enemy to you.
Right.
Which you can then destroy them with your shotgun.
Yep.
But these characters have like very different abilities. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the abilities that we saw that you thought were interesting?
Yeah, sure. It's set up very similarly to, hilariously, it's actually set up similarly to Overwatch in that everyone's got a weapon ability, and then they've got kind of like a passive, and then they've also got an active, and then they've also got an ultimate. So it has a similar sense in that way. So like for instance, Fortune, she has an ability where she lets out this big cannonball that creates an area of effect that slows. So any enemy that's in that area will be slowed down, and while that's active, it stays out for a few seconds. While that's active, she's extra fast, so it allows her to create space and allows her to get very aggressive on enemies without them being able to have very much recourse. And then you've got like Hollywood's ultimate, where
my
he just
favorite.
It's so fun, and he just goes into action hero mode, and then like basically just like explosions are always happening in his
got his sunglasses
general vicinity.
on.
He puts on his sunglasses. His machine gun becomes fully automatic, unlimited clip. So you've got all these different tools to deal with kind of different situations.
That sounds awesome. Lastly, the look of it is very cool. It's like sci-fi, futuristic. It's very rooted in technology. The city that they've chosen as the setting is Seoul.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about the look while we wrap this up.
Sure, yeah. So it's not exactly a cel-shaded style, but it's kind of in that vein.
It's a little cartoony, right?
Yeah,
like something you might expect out of like a nicely polished cartoon.
Yeah, it's something along those lines, but still has that like high polished techno vibe of like something like a good like Pixar movie.
Right.
But at the same time, it's interesting how they balance that because there's characters swearing, they're talking about some adult stuff, so the characters still have to look and feel kind of grounded and believable to a certain degree. So it's a nice happy medium. It's more more colorful, a lot more colorful than something like, I don't know, Call of Duty, but somewhere a little bit more scaled back from something like, say, Borderlands, I feel.
All right, Vince, thanks a lot for giving us your thoughts on Agents of Mayhem. Like I said, we are going to be covering this game all throughout the month of June because it is our game for IGN first. So make sure you keep it locked to IGN for all kinds of crazy cool features about the characters and the gameplay and exclusive footage and gameplay and all that stuff coming right up. So don't go anywhere.